She called the cops on me at my own house. Claimed I didn't even live there. I'd just returned after 6 grueling weeks battling wildfires. No rest, no real sleep, barely even a phone signal. And the first thing I see as I pull into my driveway? Carol, our HOA president, standing dead center on my lawn, phone in hand, streaming live to the community watch group like she stumbled upon some international fugitive instead of a tired man who just wants a shower and 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. I stepped out of my truck, still caked in ash and smelling like smoke, and there she was, blinding neon windbreaker, peroxide blonde hair, voice sharp and shrill as ever, declaring to her tiny online audience that the phony federal agent had returned. Then came the patrol cars. 3 of them, parked around my curb like a roadblock, lights flashing. The officers stepped out with caution, hands poised at their hips like I was armed and dangerous. That's how I got welcomed home. Let me rewind. I'm Alex. I work with the Bureau of Land Management. When there's fire ripping through the western ranges, we don't get to clock out. We go where we're needed, no matter how long it takes. The neighbors know this. Carol does too. But that didn't stop her from going on a full-blown crusade while I was gone. She had papers in hand, HOA rulebooks, some fake utility bill with her name swapped onto my address, and a theory so absurd it'd be funny if it weren't happening to me. She claimed homes left empty for over a month automatically reverted to HOA custody. I stood there explaining everything, hands raised more in disbelief than compliance, while she shoved her phone in my face, narrating the capture of a so-called imposter to her viewers. Then came Maria. 70 years old, no nonsense, gardening gloves still on and fury in her eyes. She marched down the sidewalk and held up my spare key like a badge of honor. This is ridiculous, Carol. I watered his plants for 6 weeks, she shouted, drawing everyone's attention. Maria isn't the type for drama. She's more about church bake sales and HOA meetings for the snacks, but even she had her limit. Carol, never one to back down, turned her phone on Maria, now spinning a fresh theory about easily manipulated seniors aiding federal imposters. One of the officers choked back a laugh, and that seemed to break the tension. They checked my ID, cross-referenced property records, and eventually Officer Davis gave me the all-clear. He even apologized, that tired, embarrassed look on his face like someone forced into a play they never auditioned for. But Carol wasn't done. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of HOA violation notices. My lawn was half an inch too high. A bird was allegedly chirping too loud past 10 p.m. My truck was parked at a suspicious angle. She even filed a complaint about irregular breathing while I was in the communal area. Then I saw it, her new website. Expose the faker, she called it. The homepage had a blurry photo of me checking my mail, slapped on a makeshift wanted poster with Comic Sans and everything. There were links to videos on her YouTube channel where she analyzed evidence like she was solving a cold case, pausing clips to circle my face like I was some suburban Unabomber. On the 3rd day, I found 30 wooden stakes hammered into my yard, each one tagged with HOA property. Carol was on the sidewalk giving orders to her husband, Bob, who was clearly uncomfortable, sweat soaking through his shirt as he glanced nervously at my window between every hammer swing. I documented it all, photos, GPS coordinates, timestamps, and tried to handle it the right way. I sent a cease and desist notice through a lawyer friend. Within hours, Carol was online again, this time setting the letter on fire for her audience while shouting that phony agents don't scare her. That night, while I stood near the fence trying to figure out what line Carol would cross next, Maria walked up and whispered like we were Cold War spies. She slipped me an old newspaper clipping, folded tight. "You didn't hear this from me," she said. The article talked about Carol's grandfather, a poker game gone wrong, and how his family lost everything on a bad hand. Suddenly a lot about Carol made sense. Everything at the Silver Dollar Casino, except the cards, was blamed on the government. That's the family lore Carol inherited. Not a tale of gambling, but a legacy of mistrust aimed at federal authority, twisted and passed down until it turned her into the self-declared marshal of a neighborhood no one else cared to police. It hit me then. This feud with Carol wasn't about property lines or HOA clauses. It was generational paranoia, dressed up in committee titles and Facebook Live broadcasts. The next morning, I decided to play it clean, legal and documented. I started removing the stakes, carefully piling them by the curb. That's when Carol struck again. She called 911, claiming I was destroying HOA property and stockpiling weapons in my shed. I couldn't help but chuckle when I glanced over and saw the fearsome arsenal. A shovel, a rake, and a half-used bag of grass seed. "Ma'am, we're dispatching all available units," the dispatcher said. Carol turned toward me, mouthing the word checkmate, like we were in some Hollywood spy thriller. Within minutes, 5 squad cars rolled up. A helicopter hovered overhead. Though to be fair, it was just the morning traffic copter Carol insisted was backup. I stood there, watering can in hand, as a full tactical team encircled my shed like they expected to find a meth lab inside. Officer Davis pried open the door. All he found were gardening tools. The look on his face said it all. He'd rather be anywhere else. Not done yet. Carol snatched my badge and declared that BLM stood for Black Lives Matter, not Bureau of Land Management, trying to twist it like it was some dollar store prop. That's when Davis had enough. He checked my credentials, confirmed everything through federal systems, and turned to Carol with a final flat. "Ma'am, he's legit." You'd think that would settle things. Instead, a week later, Carol called a special HOA meeting. She brought 200 printed agendas, a borrowed AV system, and a PowerPoint presentation like she was unveiling Watergate. I arrived late. The room was nearly empty, just 15 people, most of them there for entertainment. Maria munched popcorn. Bob looked like he'd rather endure dental surgery. Carol began her presentation, clicking through slides of supposed anarchist material. One was just a photo of me reading Better Homes and Gardens. A vacation photo flashed by with no explanation. Arrows pointed at nothing. When she finally called for a vote to ban imposter agents, only 3 hands went up, hers, her loyal friend, and some poor guy who was mid-stretch. Then came the twist. My phone buzzed. My supervisor's voice crackled with irritation. "We've received 47 FOIA requests about you," she said. Carol had filed reports with every agency she could think of, the EPA, CIA, FBI, even Space Force. Apparently, I was using government satellites to spy on her backyard tomatoes. The fallout? The feds turned the tables. Carol received an official-looking invitation to a recognition ceremony downtown. She showed up in a new suit, speech rehearsed, expecting applause. But when the curtain rose, it wasn't an award she got, it was a reckoning. The room was packed. A screen lit up with footage from her own live streams, her frantic 911 calls, and the evidence she'd submitted. The prosecutor laid it all out, even dredged up her family's old poker scam. Maria gave testimony. Bob finally cracked, admitting he'd kept her secrets far too long. By the end, Carol looked like a ghost. They arrested her for harassment and filing false reports. Her phone, still broadcasting live, captured her stunned expression as the cuffs clicked shut. The neighborhood went quiet. Then someone whispered, "Well, she finally went viral." And I had to bite my lip not to laugh. 3 months later, everything feels different. Carol's gone. Maria's now the HOA president. Bob's dating his therapist. We traded violation notices for potlucks. My lawn can grow an inch too tall without triggering a tactical response. One day I get a letter from Carol. She's working at a grocery store now, sent a photo from a support group. Says she's trying to let go of the past. Says she's sorry. I looked out across my yard, the sun slipping behind trees that have seen wildfire and frost, and now, finally, a little peace. So now I ask you, if a neighbor tried to destroy your life, but eventually owned up to it, could you forgive them? Or are some scars just too deep? Drop your stories below. HOA nightmares, neighborhood redemption arcs, or just your thoughts on second chances. I read everyone. And sometimes, the sweetest justice is just letting the truth speak louder than revenge.